Recording. Hey, I think RJ's here. Admit. I admitted him. You have been admitted.
You were 1 minute
RJ
late.
has been admitted. Can you hear me, RJ?
Hey,
You can hear me?
I can hear you. I can see all you guys.
Holy
There's
shit,
RJ.
it worked. Here, let me move the computer. Hang on a second.
Uh-oh. Stand by for technical.
Hey, guys.
What's going on, RJ?
Oh, man. I just, everyone's about to eat dinner. The kids are about to eat dinner, and I'm not in charge right now. It's fucking awesome.
That answers that question. I was going to say, well, you want us to let you go eat? And
Yeah, no.
Sounds like you're
No.
enjoying the break.
All awesome. Hold on one sec. Let me try to figure this out.
There we go. Yeah.
Hey.
Dude, you're sitting on our dining room table.
I need to scoop this.
I tried to connect my Zoom as an audio interface to this microphone to the computer. Can you guys hear me? Does it sound like I'm using a microphone?
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
good.
It sounds great.
Good.
Okay, cool. My USB ports are kind of shitty, so like if it starts to crackle or something, just tell me and I'll unplug it.
Okay.
Are you guys opting for not the porch today?
Yeah.
Well, you know what? There's really no good reason other than
We're lazy.
technical difficulty, like figuring it out so that we can all see you with our.
Yeah.
It's
I see.
just how the setup, and it's been set up like this. I think since
We've
the
been doing this
quarantine.
for a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for me right now too, there's
I'm
there's
staring at
pollen all over everything. And
Uh,
out there very long. I start.
Serious allergies.
Yeah.
Yeah. It looks good. It looks nice and comfortable in there.
It is,
Yeah,
and
it's cool.
well, I'm going to turn it so you can see the porch because we're facing the porch. What?
Okay.
Oh,
I
that
just want to
won't-
see the
that
porch
won't-
one time.
That won't.
No, you
do
can- that won't
anything.
do shit.
The camera, so
are
don't
you
mess
doing?
with it.
You guys,
the
see,
end.
that's why
Never
I'm not
mind.
in charge of this kind of stuff.
I will trust you guys that there's a porch.
Well, we'll show you the porch towards the end here because we
All
have
right.
to move the camera.
Okay. Are
It's
you guys
like
drinking coffee?
I am.
I have water.
I'm
right
drinking
here.
Water.
iced tea as I always do.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to open a beer if that's cool with you guys.
Yeah,
'cause
please.
It's like it's nighttime over here.
So
It's
weird.
after work too, but I need hydration.
Yeah. Yeah.
Coffee is 90 whatever % water.
It
It's
like
the same thing.
drinking coffee makes me feel like my mouth looks like Yoda, like totally shriveled up. And
I was gonna say that makes sense. That was a good
yes, and
visual.
so I don't want to feel like that right now.
Try
Do you
it.
guys sometimes drink alcohol?
Yeah,
They do.
yeah.
You don't, Aaron.
You just
No.
took
Oh,
all
I'm
these
sorry.
gulps
I had
yesterday.
3 sips of wine yesterday.
Okay.
You
Okay.
had
You're-
Aaron's the cheapest date in the world. Mel's about the second
Yeah.
cheapest right behind him. Me and Ryder drink quite a bit. Vodka. This week we've had vodka, wine, beer.
I wasn't sure just because I know there's some recovery happening, and I know everyone treats that differently.
Yeah.
not with alcohol with any of us, but with me, I'll just do it. If we're all gonna have fun, yeah, I want to have fun too.
Yeah.
But mostly I'll choose not to because I don't like how alcohol makes my face look.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It starts to melt.
I
and-
guess I'm too vain to deal with the
That's good.
dehydration. But
I don't like how it makes my head feel in the morning sometimes.
Yeah,
like,
that-
well, all highs are not created equal, right?
True.
And so alcohol gives you kind of a high, but it's a low high. And so it makes me feel heavy and fun and flirty and sexy and all that. But then it's like I don't know, just
I get that.
next day it's like, ugh, it
Yeah,
wasn't worth
That's
it.
called a hangover.
Well, not even, no, it's not. I don't drink that much. You know me.
Yeah.
You know me.
He says she usually has a problem the evening of
Yeah.
because she doesn't drink a lot, and then when she drinks, she's like, "Woo, party!"
Yeah.
Like 2 weeks ago, she drank a whole bottle of champagne to herself.
Oh, yeah.
When you don't drink, she wasn't doing the greatest.
That was
there.
No.
a fun day, though.
But she was a blast.
It's always fun at the time. I mean, anything's fun at the time, that's the whole point.
Totally. And for me, like the whole not drinking thing it doesn't have anything to do with recovery. I just don't like the taste
Just don't
of
like it.
And I hate the way alcohol makes me feel. I hate that high. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, he was never a big fan of alcohol, even when we were younger.
No, I want heroin.
Go straight for the good stuff.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So, hey, RJ,
Hey.
what's up, man?
Hey, good to see you guys.
It only took us 3 years to
I
find
know. It's so awesome to see you guys.
Oh my
Me
gosh.
too, man. So
Mhm.
quarantine life.
Yeah.
Thank you, L. I'm gonna get that tattooed on my lower left side.
Is it like a teardrop thing? Like, you know, if you kill someone, but it's like you've
And
survived?
it's gonna have like the Oakland Raiders font like coming down like that
She's
thing.
thought
the
this out, I
QL.
guess.
I have.
We'll call her post Maloney.
Post Melanie.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. I mean, you know what's interesting to me is it's all everyone's situation is almost the same, but everyone's situation is just like a little bit different, right? Like we're all stuck at home. We're all feeling the effects in some way, economically, socially, emotionally. And then like I got a bunch of crazy shit happen the past couple weeks, but I keep reminding myself that like literally everyone's going through it, but just in like slightly different ways, you know?
What kind of crazy shit?
Well, we're like in the middle of moving. So right now you see this 70s like wall behind me. We're at my wife's family's beach house in Stone Harbor, New Jersey.
Right on.
Because our house is on the market in DC because we're moving to Philly and like nothing's like selling. And so we're not buying. So everything's like very much in limbo. Which is just, but again, it's like, whatever, we have a place to
Very
live.
appropriate for the time.
Yeah, exactly. It's all like very much in limbo. My mom today got sent, my mom lives in a nursing home. She had a stroke like 8 years ago and she was in the ICU with the coronavirus for 2 weeks, which like someone who had a stroke who's in the ICU with coronavirus, you're not supposed to like recover. And she recovered and now is going back to her nursing home today, which is really cool. Really cool. But also like kind of threw everything I knew about this thing on its head because I was like, wait, that's not what's supposed to happen.
Mm-mm.
So like that kind of stuff is intense, but like I'm sure that all three of you have your own intense shit that's happening because it's just like everything becomes more intense in a situation like this.
Very, very much so. I think emotionally has been the biggest part of it. It's been an emotional, weird thing. And like you said, for everybody in their own unique way. It's a trip. Like Mel and Apple are still going to work and now I'm working from home and it's just different perspectives of the pressure of quarantine and what we're all dealing with. It's a trip, dude. I think nothing.
So, I mean, going out in public, like I went to the grocery store yesterday, it was fucking terrifying. Like I can't imagine going to work every day. I feel like you'd come home exhausted just from like thinking about what possibly could happen while you're out.
Me and Melanie have talked about that several times because we go out and it's even if you're prepared for it, you feel everybody's on a different frequency, everybody's weirded out, everybody's paranoid of each other, and we both work places where there's high volumes of people.
Yes.
I'm way more hours than I usually do because everybody wants their cannabis in these times.
Yeah.
Define cannabis.
That's right. Premium cannabis.
I thought you were actually define it like addiction.
No.
It is a plant that gets on.
Oh my god.
I wish I had memorized the street address because that would have been awesome if I could like gone into that.
One in Hillsborough, one in Forest Grove.
Yeah, right.
Oh.
It is weird though. It's weird to go out there. Mel, are you feeling that too?
It's absolutely because you know I work in a store that is super high volume, like Apple said, and we have like strict guidelines now. They ask us about our health. They give us a wellness check, and they're serious. You have to, you know, the people that you were like more than cordial with, like joking and fun, now have to be like, no, like, have you had these symptoms? Have you come into contact with anybody with corona? Have you had people come that travel? You know, all this stuff, and so it makes you have to kind of like be on alert now at work, where before it was such a relaxed environment, super fun. People love to come there. They get their coffee and hang out.
Mm-hmm.
Now like in, out, in, out,
Get your
in,
food and
out.
get the fuck out.
And there's still personality and stuff like that. I can't say that we ever lose that, but we're affected. So when I come home to Aaron and he's like been home all day and he's going stir crazy and he's frustrated, like that is like another, like I have to face it again, you know? So I'm dealing with it really in a unique way because I try to stay positive because most of the time I really feel that way. Like I feel like that, but this is really like neutralizing me, like, because it's taking more energy than I can give. And so it's like bringing me to a neutral with almost like not emotion.
And like for me, man, like you might have had this experience. Well, you did. You got up and you went to an office for a long time. You did that, you know what I mean? And so all of a sudden working from home and not leaving the house, especially after festival after festival and show after show, and being so connected in the community here and doing all the stuff that we did, and then it's stopped. And like a shock to the system. And we were talking about it with Terrelay Weathers yesterday. It's almost like a grieving process.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. Like I was super depressed when this first started, and then like going through all the stages, got really angry and was like, this can't happen, like the whole thing. And then I realized a few days ago, I was like, holy shit, this is grief.
Yeah.
That I'm feeling, like I'm dealing with it. So yeah, man, it's nuts. And I can't imagine, like for you have 3 little ones, dude.
Yeah. They're really
Keeps
small.
you distracted, huh?
They do. They certainly distract, for sure. They distract me from everything at all times. No, it's interesting. I feel really like, there's like the few people that I see, just judging from Twitter or whatever. It's like, there are a few people who are like, I'm kind of bored, and look I did like 3 puzzles yesterday. And it's like, that seems cool, And then there's like our friends who are married, but don't have kids. So it's like they have companionship and they can do what they want, but they're not like, it's really hard to get into a room for 5 minutes and do something quietly, with a bunch of little kids, but they have no idea what's going on. This is just normal life. We just happen to be on a very long vacation. So that is really kind of cool.
That's actually cute. That's cool, man.
Yeah. They're
a good memory for them.
Yeah, I think it will be. And to have us around all the time, no childcare, no school. So
right now we've said that several people we've talked to, that keeps coming up. It's like right now kids and pets are loving
stoked.
They're they're stoked. They don't understand what's going on. They're just happy their people are around constantly.
Exactly.
Coming from that perspective, like all the time that you're forced to give each other, I fucking love it. I love what's happening. Like you're really forced to hang out with your partner for more than an evening.
Yeah.
More than a couple hours in the, midday on a weekend. Like
yeah.
You are forced to spend time with them and reacquaint yourselves with each other. And you have no choice.
Well, some people are finding out that ain't where they want to be, man.
Right.
Finding out other shit too. Like I think it's good. We need to just face whatever we're holding in our homes and in our like body homes also.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting, like that part of it, I feel grateful to like wake up to kids, even though sometimes it's like, oh my God, the same thing every day. It's Groundhog Day for everyone, but with 3 young kids that are constant, like basically for, 15 hours a day, they're just asking for things and complaining and fighting and whining. But I talked earlier today with Chris Pandolfi and Bob Crawford for this charity thing. And I was interviewing them about their music and what their, how their music has changed. And I was thinking every single person is going through that same process that you're describing, Aaron, like the grieving process, and like what Chris and Bob were describing on a musical level is sort of what happened to me on a work and life level. Like for 2 weeks, I couldn't really do anything. And then like week 3 and week 4, things started to kind of seem like I could adapt. And then like week 5 was like, okay, this is working. But thinking about like people who are like musicians, actors, painters, people who like live vastly different lives, and we're all going through this together. So that gives me some like hope that something cool will come out of it. Maybe we'll all have more empathy or have a little bit more appreciation for other people,
Yeah, I've been saying that, like, not just for me personally, those first few shows that we go to after this, when we can finally go to a show again, it not only will the audience have a renewed appreciation for the chance to do that, but the bands are going to feel that on a different level too. Like, wow, we get to do this thing again for these people.
It's gonna be so high energy.
Totally. And it's gonna be a totally different world, you know. None of us know, but I've been pretty successful actually at taking it like day by day.
That's
Like, you know, every day is like its own thing. Because if you think too far ahead and you start to think like what's gonna happen in 6 months or a year or two months, whatever, like it's overwhelming.
Yeah, nobody knows.
That's
Nobody
what Apple
knows
keeps
anything.
saying. Apple's
Yeah.
like, nobody fucking knows.
Nobody knows what's going to happen in an hour. For all of a sudden, there could be some huge announcement or something, and nobody
Yeah.
knows. And with the
Mhm.
24-hour news, they're forced to just continuously report on bullshit, on
Yeah.
nuts, and speculate.
100%.
We'll go to Joe Blow and see what his opinion
Yeah.
is, who has no qualifications for anything.
Well, you see, Larry.
Well, the weird thing too, I want to ask you, because like we talked to when we talked to Mike Fanoia and stuff, it's a lot different on the East Coast than here. Like we're up to like 1,800 confirmed cases and like 50 something deaths in Oregon. And then we talked to Mike, whose wife is working in ICU.
Yeah.
He's afraid for her. And then what you just said with your grandmother,
No, that was his
No, his
mom.
his
or
mom.
your mom.
Yeah.
We don't know anybody firsthand over here that has gotten it. It's just through word of mouth, and so far it's been East Coast.
Yeah.
So it's been hard for us. At first, it was hard for us to take it seriously. We were kind of like on that conspiracy theory edge and not knowing, and now it's like, okay, this is
Okay,
real.
It's real.
Yeah.
In some way, at least, this is real because people we trust and talk to, like you, we're hearing firsthand accounts now.
So what's it like back there?
Yeah, it's intense, man. I mean, I was in New York like a week before this all went down. So like immediately, I was at this podcast conference actually, and I got an email. It was like this guy who was there had got the virus. So just so you know, like he's fine, and he and his wife have it. And I was like, shit, that was like, mid-March. So we were in, I live in DC, or I lived in DC until recently. And so it's all been like, yeah, more real. And like, here in New Jersey, we're in like a coastal town. It's sparsely populated, but everyone wears masks. Like to go into the grocery store, liquor store, like you have to wear a mask. You have to like, they're taking it super seriously. And most of my friends who live in New York have left, at least, temporarily.
Like Christina split.
Christina, I mean, 7 or 8 of my friends like who live there are not there because like, it is the epicenter and it's such a densely populated place. The whole East Coast is, way more than where you guys are.
Yeah.
So that makes it a little more intense,
So as far as like Osiris goes, how's everything going? I mean, it seems like we as a network have reacted really positively to this thing. It's like been I hate to say this, but it's been actually good. Like it's made us all adapt and think a little bit differently. Do you feel like that?
Definitely. I think you guys, I'm not just saying this because we're talking, like you guys are the kind of embodiment of what has changed, in that like we changed the format, we changed the medium, we try to find the audience where they are and give them something useful, whether it's meditation or the vibe check stuff or just regular episodes. So I'm really proud of what we've done. I mean, we're putting out a new show tomorrow, which is like we're continuing to put out new original podcasts, but at the same time trying to like, as they would say in the startup world, pivot a tiny bit toward like where people are. And it's interesting, the video stuff, I thought at first was like everyone's going to be on video, and then it's like people are listening to fewer podcasts, and then like a week later it was like maybe they're not, and like maybe people don't want video. Like
Right.
Media changes so quickly that I feel like what I'm proud of is that we're like, I view all of it as experimenting, like we'll do a bunch of stuff, see if it works. If it doesn't work, we'll stop doing it, and then we'll do something else. Like the live stuff that you guys have done and that we've done, the live event stuff is amazing, and like now that's off the table. So like that's done for now. So now what else can we do, right? So you guys have adapted exactly as I have, I think. And I feel like, yeah, I mean, the mission of Osiris is to, delight and inform music fans. And so like, I feel like that right now is more needed than ever, right? Like even just bullshitting about music is,
Mhm.
it's a welcome distraction from the world. So I feel like we can fulfill our mission and maybe like learn a few things along the way, you know?
Yeah. And, we've never really talked about it, but like, we came on right when Osiris had just barely started, like
Yeah.
right at the beginning.
Yeah.
And I've never like asked you how did it start? I've never bothered asking. I didn't care, but now we're doing this, and I think people would be interested in that.
Yeah. Well, I have to say thank you to Jonathan Hart, who turned
Aw.
me on to your podcast and who's
Jonathan.
one of my best friends and has made a lot of cool stuff happen, including this connection. So, yeah, I mean, like a lot of things in life, like it just sort of came together at the right time. I mean, I've been doing my podcast on Phish for 7 years this year.
Wow.
And
Congrats, man.
Congratulations.
yeah,
That's
thanks. It's
awesome.
really cool. It's still fun, we still have
Aw.
a good time, like just bullshitting about Phish. I mean, people
Yeah.
still listen. I don't know. I have no idea why, but I'm like, okay, as
Well,
long as you listen,
well,
we'll
they
keep
love you. That's what it is. I
Yeah.
think they know you. They love you. They expect to hear your
Yeah.
cool commentary and your
I mean, it's
thoughts.
the same thing you guys have, and there's a different feel for every show, and I think that's really cool. And I want to talk about that more because I do want to talk about the Portland vibe. But yeah, so I've been doing this for a long time. I got introduced to Tom Marshall through a friend at a Phish show. He was like, "I'm going to start a podcast. Do you think I should?" And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, yeah, of course. Like, you definitely should." And he was like, "Are you sure you won't be offended?" And I'm like, "Dude, that's crazy. Like, of course you should start a podcast. People would love to hear from you." And then I sent him a follow-up email the next day, I think, and said like, maybe there's some opportunities to turn this into something bigger if we have a group of music podcasts. Maybe there's a business opportunity, And he immediately responded and was like, "I've been thinking the same thing." And we went down. I mean, there must have been, I don't know, 10 or 15 iterations of what this could be. We were like, we could do podcast education and sort of consulting and help people launch their own shows. And, we looked at a tech angle for music licensing for podcasts. I mean, it went through a lot of early iterations before we were like, actually, what if we just bring a bunch of cool shows together and form a network where we try to pool our, audience and pool our monetization opportunities and that sort of thing. And yeah, it was cool. It I had been in the same job for 8 years and doing the same thing for 20 years. So music, like you guys, like music had always been and still is like my main passion aside from like my family,
Yeah.
Depending on the day, one of them is more important than the other. But
That's fair. That's fair.
and we just decided that like let's try, let's like get 10 podcasts together, launch this network and see what happens. And like my background's in marketing and communications, so to me part of it is like from the beginning the idea was like, let's build a brand, that people, when they hear Osiris, they'll think music, they'll think like cool conversations, and I think that's like that part of it has been really
Absolutely.
successful.
I think that's
Totally.
I think that definitely shows.
You guys have talked to tons of people out there, right, at shows who like, if people have heard of us, they know exactly what it means. And I think that's
Yeah.
that to me is like one of the biggest markers of success, like trying to monetize podcasts is an ongoing, like it's a thing, right? Like we're still trying to figure it out, but I think we built a good brand along the way. So
Yeah, I've met people at shows that have never heard No Simple Road that know Osiris. Oh, you guys are on Osiris? Okay, cool. I'll give you guys a listen. So it's like this
that's really cool.
become like a stamp of approval kind of thing.
That's cool. That's cool to hear.
Yeah. It's a trip. And I just think about, for you, man, like meeting Tom would be like for me back in the day meeting Hunter.
Yeah.
And
yeah, it was really weird. I mean, I'm sure you guys believe in some sort of, karma of some kind that like just happens. I mean, I had been, and it's not all about like the transactional part of it, but I had put in like a lot of time into this podcast, obviously not making money, putting in a lot of my time to like deliver something back to Phish fans. That's how like our podcast started. And it's interesting that like the thing that came back was like getting to know the guy who wrote the lyrics to most of the songs.
Right.
And I'm not a huge like lyrical analysis person. Like I wasn't like, oh my God, if I meet Tom Marshall, I'm going to ask him about like song X, Y, and Z, And some people are like that, and I've witnessed it. People will come up to him and ask him really smart questions about his lyrics, and I'm like, wow, that's not how I have experienced Phish, But I knew every one of his songs, obviously, and was like, this is really interesting. And he's the one of the most like down to earth, really chill people I've ever met, and we like immediately became friends, mostly because our personalities are like pretty compatible. Like I'm more type A. I'm a little bit more like I'm just trying to do shit all the time, and he is like he's super smart, but also like is very selective about what he puts his energy into. So he will help whatever anytime I ask, he leads his own stuff in, but when I ask him for help, he gives really good advice and input, and otherwise lets me kind of like plow ahead without looking back, which is there are pros and cons to that too.
Well, I mean, but that's how you find out stuff. That's how you make mistakes, and that's how you learn. And I don't know, you guys have been so awesome with us. Like I said a few minutes ago, we didn't fucking know each other. Like you know who we were.
Yeah.
And it's been really great, man. It like for me starting No Simple Road and then being part of Osiris, like helped me find my confidence in myself in a lot of ways, and like made me feel legitimate. Like what we were doing wasn't just some fucking stupid fly-by-night thing.
We've always felt like we're part of something bigger and awesome.
And I told you like
beginning
about that, like at the Gorge in 2018, having that experience of like, holy shit, I'm on the inside of this thing. Like,
right.
I'm not just in the crowd. I'm like helping create this thing that's happening right now.
Yeah.
And that was a big deal.
If he just kept yelling at Trey, he was just yelling at Trey like, it was like,
I loved the Gorge Chronicles, man. That was those are some epic stories. I mean, it's interesting because if I had said 5 years ago, I'm gonna do this podcast and then I'm gonna try to get, some kind of inside track to Phish, and I'm gonna try to like, get on the inside of the music industry, like it wouldn't have worked, right? Like I'd never tried to do that, and now it's like, yeah, exactly. Like I'm backstage at festivals doing interviews. I'm like, wow, this is it's just like having pure intentions, which of course like we're all concerned with our own success and advancement and money and all that, but like I just really want to do cool shit for music fans, and I think you guys do too. And so
enjoy ourselves while doing
have fun, like don't be afraid to like, have fun. I mean,
you're afraid to have fun. I like that.
Yeah.
The one you guys interviewed MC Taylor, and I think he had just like finished giving his kid a bath.
Yeah.
You guys called him, and I remember listening to that show, and it was after we had launched, and I was like, this is like, you guys have a unique vibe that I think is not easily recreated. Like I think there's a few shows on our network that are like very vibe focused, and you guys really are one of them. And I think it's a unique interview to walk into, like I do interviews with artists all the time, and I'm like a relationship person, but not a like vibe person. Like you guys create the vibe and invite people in, and people immediately feel it. Like every interview that I've listened to of yours, and you've done hundreds, people walk into the vibe, and it's really cool that you created that, and it's authentic to you guys, right? You're not trying to like create something that will make you look cool, right? Like even though you just happen to look cool while you're doing it.
For us, like
the times we tried to, the times Aaron or me in the beginning, there's a few times each of us would write down a few things we wanted to ask, and that totally screwed it up.
Behind the scenes, RJ, I am the worst. Like
Mel
person.
shows up 10 seconds till the mic comes on with no headphones, this and that.
I'm always the one that's
the camera.
I don't see why we should do this. Like, no, I'm not going to ask any questions. I'm fine. I won't do it. But what it's authentic to me. I can't not be myself. Otherwise I pout. And so I won't take direction from Aaron. I'm not going to take. No, I'll do it how I want. If you want me
Not
to,
just Aaron, nobody.
from
Nobody.
anybody.
It's very surprising. It's very surprising.
Yeah, imagine that.
But what I think happens is that, like you were talking about the vibe, like when we're all together, it's like there is like a plug that goes on, like between us, right? And so when
it's like a band.
Yeah. And then so when somebody comes in, there's like, what's up? It's like they're sharing our area rug right now. That's how I always feel it. Like they're just like, and it's always ironic that no matter where we set up, there's always an extra chair or several, because it feels like that. Like anybody can just come in and just join us right now. You know, whoever, Simon, come home, you sit down for a minute, listen, go to his room, or Ryder come, hey. And so we are always inviting, and I feel like that is our vibe, like inviting you in to hear, inviting you in to like talk, inviting you in.
The MC Taylor, well, like you said, I don't know how many guests we've had where in the beginning, like within the first few minutes, they're like, you hear their dog, or you hear, or they're like, oh dude, my 3-year-old, and we're like, who cares, man, let them no, we're gonna keep recording, keep going, let's be real.
That MC Taylor interview, dude,
I mean, if we're being honest, behind the scenes, I thought that was the hardest interview
I've had the
ever
hardest
done,
time with that.
ever.
That was like,
well, we didn't
that
know
was my combative time.
We didn't know a whole lot about him, and it wasn't necessarily straight up. We've since become where we, appreciate him a whole lot more.
Oh my gosh!
But at the time, it was like, wow, this is somebody that we need to do.
Yeah.
And so, but it came out great.
It was hard.
Aaron really
like
doubted
homework.
it, and listening back, it was great.
It felt like it was like the first time I was like, I don't know this. I don't know what to listen to, And so I was like, I'm not interested. I go, if we're going to do this show, I need to be interested in it.
Yeah.
I have to, like, okay, fine. I'm not going to be interested in every single thing. But then I learned a lot along the way. I learned how to be interested in anybody. And that's what I learned through the show.
She learned, like you said a while ago, like I'm always, when Aaron tells me we got an interview coming up, I start immediately researching and listening out on the patio, and so does he. Mel, sometimes, there's been several times she's never even heard one note from the band that and she's done that on purpose. And at first I was like, we can't do that. You can't interview somebody and be like, I have no idea who you are, but it's worked very well.
It's a good mix.
Because I feel like they're coming to my porch. And so I don't know them. You know what I mean? Like, I want to be like, so what's up with your grandma? That's cute.
Yeah, she wants to know more about their fan. Then she really cracks the shell of like their kids and well, tell us about your wife and how you guys
I'm
met.
Interested in.
That's not the questions me and the two dudes are going to be asking. Right. She gets that the mama vibe, grandma.
That's part of the vibe.
But you know what, RJ? Like going deeper with that, like you said, you're backstage at festivals interviewing people, and we've had those moments too, and you kind of step outside yourself for a minute, you're like, holy shit, and then you're back and like, okay, no biggie. I mean, like you said, if you had tried to do this, never in a million years would it have come off. It just wouldn't happen. The scene that we're a part of doesn't allow that. It's just not part of it. It self-regulates the energy itself with that, weeds that shit out. And I think that what you've done with Osiris, you and Tom, and it really has power behind it. It think about this. I've thought about this with No Simple Road. Like at any time of the day, anywhere on the planet, your voice can be coming out of somebody's speakers without you knowing it. So you're spending time with people all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's somebody out there right now that just got turned on to Phish last year that's going back and listening to back episodes of your show to try and bone up on the scene.
Totally.
And so it's this like really powerful entity in the music world, and it's rad.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you saying that. I do think the pure intentions is the driver of it. Like, I come from like the corporate world, and I've done a lot of interviews with people just graduating from college looking for a job, and they're like, I want to do this for 2 years and then this for 2 years. Like, what's your advice? And I'm like, just like meet good people and take on things that you don't think you can do, because you'll learn something, and just like value relationships and be authentic, like that's the way the world works. I mean, it's in my mind anyway, but I mean, you're totally right. I was in Mexico for Phish, which seems like a different lifetime, but I was in a bathroom, like in one of the resort bathrooms or whatever, and I was walking out from the bathroom, and I was like, sorry that, like, I said something to the guy who was going in, and he was like, are you RJ? And I was like, what? And he was like, I recognize your voice.
What?
And like just talk,
Yeah.
which is pretty cool. Like that's like that happens once in a while, and it's like, okay, this is really cool that, like, yeah, he might have been listening 2 months ago in any part of the United States or the world, and could have just heard our nonsense about Phish, and that's fucking awesome. Like it's
Oh yeah.
We've had it with
Well,
like
I've had a
walking.
little sweetheart today sent me a DM with Viola Lee on, like,
Oh.
she's like, this was your favorite, right? And I was just like, what?
How does somebody know that?
Like, and then she writes ... from the pod, and I was
Yeah.
like, that's freaking so sweet that, first of all, that you would remember that from however many episodes ago or whatever.
10,000.
But yeah, like,
wow.
impact that the ripple that podcasts have, because they're not time specific.
Yeah.
Well,
That's the
Yeah.
beauty of, like, we may, like, what in the content of our show might be of a specific time,
Right.
but because of the way that it's posted and the way that it lives, it's infinite, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
Totally.
lives in the cloud.
So-
So think about the impact, not just right now, but going forward, because Osiris is a baby. It's
Yeah.
a baby.
It's true.
It literally does have the potential to be an MTV of sorts.
Well, one of my favorite things that we've heard a few times is when somebody DMs or sends in an email and tell us that they're like, dude, what was that one? It was like, I binged 70 something
Oh, yeah,
hours in the
Jesus
last
Christ.
like 2
Nuts.
weeks or something. To know that we're binge worthy,
Yeah.
that's like when I'm really high and have a day to get on Netflix and watch
Right.
7 hours of Tiger King or something. And it's like people are doing, they find us that interesting that
Yeah.
you're going to listen to me for more than a couple hours. Like, wow, thank
5
you.
minutes.
I mean, that's what's unique about the medium, in terms of podcasting. I mean, what I was going to say earlier is, like, we have these interesting, like, if I were to do an awards show for Osiris, it's like the best monologues, John Barber's monologues on Touchdowns All Day, like, he'll go for 12 minutes, just him. And I'm cracking up the entire time. Like,
Right?
that's a talent, like, I can't do that. I do a 5-minute daily news podcast, just trying to tell people what to, like, check out. And I'll, like, throw a one-liner in there, and that's it. Like, I can't talk for 12 minutes about nothing and make it funny, like, and you guys and Jonathan with Broke Down Podcasts, you guys have such a vibe, it's like, once you start, you feel like you're there, and then there's, like, really, like, Chris Pandolfi does super heady interviews, which are like, he's an intellectual musician, and it's like, it gets deep, and it's interesting that there's all these little, like, personality quirks that are advantages, because that's the whole point, right? Like, if you were trying to create a show that fit a mold, like, why do it, right? That's why I think what you guys are doing fits in perfectly with Osiris, and I think that every show that we create kind of, like, has its own identity, but also complements the whole,
Yeah.
So I have to ask, and I've wondered this, and every time you and I are going to talk, I'm like, I'm going to ask him next time we talk. How did you come up with Osiris? Why Osiris?
So Tom started using it as, like, a code name for the project, because it's part of the lyrics from the Phish song Guela Papyrus. This is the work of the Guela Papyrus, stranded for a moment on the ocean of Osiris. So that's where it started. And then our designer, Mark, who's done a ton of our art, he came up with, like, the logo, the kind of, like, 4-part, circle. And it was sort of supposed to be a placeholder. And then we went in to meet with one of our advisors, who was a big deal person in the finance world, who's also a huge music fan. And we told him the name, and he was like, that's a really cool name. And we're like, all right.
Keeping that one.
Just keeping it. Yeah. So it just stuck.
Rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, it
Everything.
does.
It was a trip for me, like coming from a background in magic and stuff. What Osiris is and what it means and who that is. And
Yeah, and I learned about it after the
perfect.
fact. I learned about that all after the fact. You know, it's like people are like, "Yeah, you know about Osiris." I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Shit, I better look at this on my phone really quick." But yeah, started off as a code name and then it stuck. And it's I mean, part of it is because it has some Phish, like, sort of legend to it, which is core to our identity, in terms of Tom's background and how we came together. And I think the magic of what Phish does is sort of like creating this environment for people that feels fun and safe and unique. And I think we're trying to create something similar while also like moving beyond it. That's why I was excited for you guys to join, because like, it's a totally different thing what you're doing, and that's exactly what we need,
Yeah. And it's
I'd always give Aaron a hard time. I'd be like, you know what? Don't get mad about anything as far as the show's concerned, because we can't be compared. Like, we are our own thing. Like, we can all, the entire network can interview the same person and they won't, none of them will be like,
different.
yeah, everyone will be different, like you were saying, because of all these different personalities. So that with us, I always feel comfortable now after that initial part, because it was like something that I didn't ask for. I wasn't trying to be on a podcast, or
I wasn't either.
I wasn't down with like talking about my personal life, and like, I'm like, oh my God, what an invasion. And I had to get over all of that head trippy stuff, but now it's like anybody, like, yeah, that's rad. Like, I love when, especially Andy Frasco, like if he interviews somebody that we interview, I love to listen to that, because I love to hear his perspective and his way and what he pulls out of them.
Yeah.
Really
totally.
That's still an ongoing joke with her. At one point, she actually said, "I don't have anything to say." Like, what?
Christ.
What are you talking about? And then voice has been found.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Do you find that with your thing, like over time, the way that you approach your podcast has changed? Do you feel like the mission of it has altered since you first started?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like talking about the Helping Friendly podcast, the Phish podcast I do. I mean, yeah, I think it has. And I think it's interesting because there's 4 of us who do it, and not like you guys are really consistent with who's there. Like we have 4 people who are involved, but it's like any episode could have any combination of the 4 of us, because usually all 4 of us can't make it. So we've had this ongoing discussion about like, are we becoming too professional, or are we too like polished? Is it like because we're sort of trying to, and it gets back to this like authenticity, like we're trying to like make things a little bit more digestible, or at least like, not ramble and whatever, like which we do, right? And it's interesting because I think what I've come back to, just based on like the Apple podcast reviews and stuff, is like people are like, this is a really unique place to get Phish perspective, and it's like, it's because of the hosts. It's like why people listen to your show. It's not because we like do something cool with the production, or we include music at the beginning, middle, or end, or none. It's like people tune in to hear us talk, which,
so why would you want to cut that down?
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And I keep going back to that. And it's sort of like, there's this sort of like, we've talked about this. There's best practices in data and like the podcast world that are like, 90 minutes is like about the max that you should put out. Right. And many of us just simply can't adhere to that. And that's part of the authenticity, I think like, but as long as people keep coming, like if we saw our numbers drop dramatically, it'd be like, oh shit, we better do something differently. But I think our numbers would drop more if people thought that we were like trying to fit into some sort of mold. So, I mean, I'm a little more mindful on our podcasts about what we say, because I know that people from the music world are listening, and Like we still will say like Trey was playing too many notes, or like Mike looked like he was like kind of pissed off the whole time, you know, or whatever. Like we'll still say what we think, but it's a little bit more like, oh shit, there's actually people listening.
Yeah, people are gonna
I
hear
feel
this.
like that too.
Yeah.
RJ,
Yeah.
I feel like I can't say
Not 100%.
Yeah.
No,
because it's in my opinion, and so I don't want my opinion to hurt someone's feelings. That's
Yeah.
not fair, you know. Like if somebody listens to the show and when that, just because maybe I had a shit day and it was my
Right.
bad attitude through my ears, you know. So like for that sake, I'll hold my authenticity just a tiny bit.
But I get what
Sometimes it's tough.
I get what you mean though about polished. I get that, because I mean, Jesus, going back and listening to our first episode to now, like we've made adjustments. We've adjusted through this. Like recently we started doing all the commercials at once instead of cutting in between and playing music, or
you were playing music and then you weren't playing.
Yeah, or like I'm trying to get everything done in under 6 minutes at the front of the show before the intro, and like that kind of stuff. That makes sense. But like you said, man, that without you and the other 3 people on your show, there is no Helping Friendly podcast. It doesn't exist. Anybody can go stream Phish anytime they want, right?
Yeah.
Tuning into you guys. So that's the thing that they want to hear. They want to hear the interplay between the hosts. And that's the thing for me, and I know you're like this too, like the podcasts that I listen to, I rely on those hosts for that relationship. There's a real relationship there.
Totally.
And so that's like when we get into the 40-minute intros and I'm about to hit, publish, and I'm like, they're going to have to sit through 45 minutes of us talking about Darwin's farts. Okay.
But that's what they signed up for.
Yeah.
People love, we've gotten that feedback too, that people love. I'm sure we all have. You try to bounce questions off your audience, like give us feedback, tell us what you want to hear. We don't get a whole lot, but what we do is positive. Like just keep doing what you're doing. We love what you're doing.
What we get. Yeah.
It's the best feedback to get. Keep doing what you're doing.
And, on the heady part of like your Phish, reviews and stuff like that, I know for me, like when you when you're really into something, you want to be heady about it. You want to like people who play guitar, they love to know about fretboard and what, like they want to. Yeah. There's got to be a place for that, so if like you're like one of like the biggest Phish podcasts, and it can't be it's not heady, like that's where it should be. That fits there.
Yeah, it's totally true. And we've had this conversation a lot, and this is getting in the weeds of like podcasting, but 2 to 3 hour shows are like, it's a question mark, right? Like, do you lose people after the first hour? I don't know, probably some, but like, do the majority of your listeners want the full experience? Probably, right?
I'm not walking out at set break.
Well, and if it's 3 hours, you don't have 3 hours right at that time. You come back, you bounce back to it and finish it over 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be No Simple Road if I didn't ask, like, what was your first Phish show, RJ?
Oh man. Well, thank you for asking. I actually, in thinking about this show, I started thinking about my Dead history, which I want to just tell you about briefly because I had a funny memory about that. But my first Phish show was October 28th, 1995 at the Palace of Auburn Hills outside of Detroit, Michigan. I'm from Northern Ohio, so all my first shows were like Detroit, Ann Arbor, like Michigan. My first concert was the 9 Inch Nails at the Toledo Sports Arena in like 1993, which scared the shit out of me. I was fucking terrified.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was like 14, and my brother took me, who was older. Man, fucking terrifying. But yeah, so I saw Phish in 95, and up to that point, I had been a big tape trader, collected a lot of tapes. I still, I continued. By the time I saw them, I probably had, 100 tapes. Like I was collecting a lot of tapes.
You already knew what was up. You were.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think starting in 94, I started collecting tapes. And by the time I stopped collecting tapes, I had like 600 tapes. And one of my quarantine activities with my kids was to take all of my tapes, which I still had, and I color coded all the J cards by year,
Oh my God.
like the same design with the Phish logo, and I just wrote the set list on them. And I had all my kids take all of the J cards out because they're color coded by year and throw the tapes out. So now I have this pile of like, different colored J cards with my handwriting on them for every show that I'm going to use as some sort of wallpaper thing in my next
Wow.
office studio thing, which is going to be in some house that I don't know yet because we're currently homeless. But
They're marinating.
yeah, but the Dead, it's interesting because I was a Dead fan before I was a Phish fan, and still to this day, like if I had to take a band, like I would take the Dead because it's so approachable, like Phish is like, as you guys know, there's like a little bit of like an on-ramp to Phish, it's proggy and there's like
Nice way to put
Took
it.
me a
An
long
on-ramp.
time to find one ramp.
Yeah, exactly. Like the Dead is like, you listen to Jack Straw, like, yeah, it's great. It's Americana,
Got it. I'm in.
I remember like my friend, sophomore year in high school or something, and we would all go to his house after school and we'd smoke bongs in his garage, and he played Without a Net all the time, and that was like around the time when that came out. And it's funny because it's not the kind of Dead that I listen to now. Like I don't listen to early 90s Dead, but I remember listening to Without a Net a lot, and I was like wow, this is cool. It was sort of like you go through the classic rock thing and you learn about the Beatles and Led Zeppelin and the Stones and whatever current pop music is happening at the time, and then like you like introduced to this other world and you're like, holy shit, this is crazy,
Yeah.
which I feel like was a huge discovery for me. I'm sure you guys all have your own like experiences with that, but once you discover this, like it felt like discovering another world of music, with the Dead and then Phish.
Kind of hidden. It wasn't out there. Me and Aaron, this like Pink Floyd, The Doors. We grew up on that, taking psychedelics in high school, all that, everything. Dead, we kind of heard the name, and you heard some songs.
Trucking.
Trucking. And more of their like kind of country-ish stuff. That's why I always looked. It was kind of like, oh, okay, they're slow and
weird country
old.
band with skeletons.
It's like dad rock, and then once you discover that, it's not the same ever again.
You know what? Yeah. You brought up the on-ramp to Phish, and it took me, I remember when Picture of Nectar came out.
Mm-hmm.
I remember driving in my VW van, listening to Picture of Nectar, and fast forwarding past the vocals, and getting to the jam, because I was just a diehard Deadhead at the time, and never had been to a Phish show. It just didn't compute, but the jam computed for me.
Right.
Made sense.
It's interesting.
And so
we were in the same boat. I couldn't stand Trey's voice,
and it wasn't until
lovely.
It wasn't until Fare Thee Well that him and I both were like,
saw him live.
Oh shit!
We saw Trey live up on that stage, and we're like, okay. And we joke about that because you listen back; those weren't the best recordings and the best.
No,
it was something very special.
It was very special.
It sounded amazing, but you listen back, it's like, ooh.
But we went after that
to the
forum in LA, and so and like looking back now that I know Phish, like we got a Slave to the Traffic Light, a Yem, and my friend or Carini that night.
Nice.
And when we left, like the lights came on after Yem, and I looked at Apple and I was like, we fucking blew it. 30 years. Missed 30 years of this shit.
I just start catching up.
That's awesome.
So what was awesome too, because me and Aaron have always been in the Dead. Mel got into Phish the same way we did.
Well, I didn't go to that show.
You didn't go to that show, but you were at Fare Thee Well and saw. You didn't get as hooked as we were. But then Phish, once we knew after going to Forum.
Well, like Aaron would try to show, like
Mel's got to go to a Phish show, and when we finally got her to one,
he would try to like play it on the on whatever, and I just was like, he sucks, like because I love lyrics and I love a nice voice because I grew up on R&B, So I'm like, what is this? Is no like, you know, Johnny Gill. This isn't, but I didn't understand that music at all. That was not where I came from. I was into hip hop and R&B and pop music and even country music and Spanish music and like, but not Grateful Dead. Like
Yeah.
I didn't, it was not on my radar. So like, anyway, the Phish thing, I just went to the gorge. That's all I needed to go to the
Yeah.
gorge. That was
To witness that party
yeah.
until you've seen
That's all you
until
need.
you've seen firsthand like
Yeah.
all the just I mean the glow in the dark necklace waterfall that happened. I mean, just so many things that happen and to actually see their camaraderie on stage, the funniness and shit that happens, and the playing a vacuum cleaner. I mean, it's all the things they do. It's like, whoa.
But what the point of all that? What do you think the on ramp is? What is
Well,
RJ?
I do want to say about Fare Thee Well that, I mean, Trey is like he's been a student of the Grateful Dead his whole life, you know, and he practiced, I know for sure, like he practiced like crazy
Oh
for
yeah,
that, you know, like that was the gig of a lifetime, you know. And of course everyone always wants to be making their own music, but I think he showed up in a great way. It wasn't like, yeah, just play these Jerry solos. He was like, I'm gonna learn this music for real, you know. And
I just
think that's really cool.
I think
Yeah.
they wish they had more time to gel as a band.
Yeah.
It wasn't
Totally.
bad music. It was just guys that haven't been playing together
Oh,
for
of course. Yeah. I mean, and with all those different musicians who had never played before together. I mean, yeah, I don't go back to it a lot, but I go back to see like the videos of Trey beaming, getting to like sing and play Scarlet Begonias. You know, it's like that kind of shit's fucking once in a lifetime. You know,
Well, that's what we saw.
rad.
The look on him, and getting to see him, like the look on that man's face when he's in the zone or being loving, appreciative, whatever. You see it comes through with Trey.
yeah.
It's like, whoa, what is this?
Yeah, he definitely beams.
Yeah.
I mean, I think so. The On Ramp to Phish to me, like Rift to me is the best album. I mean, the album that came out a couple weeks ago is pretty phenomenal, but we'll have to give it time to percolate. But I think it's really, really stunning. I mean, Rift is just such a great, perfect mix. You know, there's the goofiness, there's the musicianship, there's good lyrics, there's like a story. It's a, you know, kind of a narrative weave together. Like to me, that's the on ramp. Is like if you're an album person, that's the one Phish album that may make you think like, okay, these guys can make an album, you know, especially because it's like a concept album, you know, but with like the requisite Phish goofiness, you know, of lengthwise, and like there's a bunch of goofy shit in there, and Mike Gordon songs, and I think that's great. I mean, a live one is also like kind of amazing. Like over the years I've been surprised by how many people were introduced to the band via a live one, which makes sense. It's, I think, their best selling record by a lot, which is sort of interesting, and maybe not that interesting given that they're like a live band, but you know, it has like great live versions of a bunch of their like most popular songs. So
right.
you know, that's a good on ramp. But if you're trying to like understand what they're like as a band, I think Rift is the ultimate.
Yeah, this new album, we've been saying it over and over again lately. Like, I'm stunned. I'm like literally speechless with what happened.
Me too.
That kind of magic, I haven't seen that since the Dead, since back in the late 80s, early 90s. Like that, the level of synchronicity of with world events and my emotional state, and then a band can just narrate perfectly.
And those are almost all Tom's lyrics, you know, which is just so amazing. You know, all except one of those songs are Tom's lyrics. So he like his lyrics have matured in a way that, like, not that they were immature before, but life wise.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like you can tell that it's written by a person who's lived a life, you know. Anyway, I'm really impressed by it, and I listened to it today earlier. I woke up like, there's nobody downstairs, and I just blasted that album, and it was
Yeah.
beautiful feeling,
So what's I think I've asked you this on a call, but like, what's the goal for Osiris? Like, since you have a magic wand,
I do.
yeah, since you have one, what are we doing, man? What's going?
Well, I mean, so our goal is to create the go-to music media network. Like that's my goal, and that involves podcasts, video, live events. When people think I'm a fan of a musician, how do I find out more? I want them to think about Osiris, and that's not like, JamBase, our media partner, is awesome for finding out where to go see people, reading more about them, articles. Like, we're not trying to go there. What we're trying to do is, like, if I want to learn about Billy Strings, like, I should be able to go to Osiris and find a few interviews with Billy Strings, like, I want people to think about us for in-depth information and conversations with musicians. And I think we're getting there. But we also, I mean, the business side of it is like, and we've talked about this, like, we have to get beyond what all of us are familiar with, which is like the broader jam scene. But you get to people like MC Taylor, and I've talked to Ezra Koenig from Vampire Weekend, and you kind of like start to, I view it as like concentric circles. And we have bluegrass, right? We have the Avett Brothers, we have the String Dusters. Like, we need to get to the point where, like, you guys are talking to Lizzo about psychedelics,
As Lizzo,
that's Mel's
Sydney,
jam right there.
Sydney was in Lizzo's breakout music video.
Yeah, our daughter was in that video.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
Well, so that I just used that example randomly, but so make it happen.
Yeah, yes.
I want to talk to Snoop Dogg too.
Of course.
Snoop Dogg has always been on my list. Lizzo,
he'd be great.
Oh yeah.
Chong.
Yeah.
I'm going down the list.
Oh
yeah,
actors and stuff too. Jared
Yeah.
Leto is another one, musician, actor, everything. There's a lot out there that we'd love.
You should have Woody Harrelson on, and he's like, he could tell you about his crazy COVID conspiracies, but also talk about being awesome at playing the drums and smoking weed. Like,
he would definitely be fun.
There's a little bit of everything. The Disco Biscuits had Snoop Dogg at Camp Bisco several years ago, and I think anyway, we should think about that.
Yeah.
So that's my goal. I want people to come to Osiris to try to find out more about the musicians they love, and I think we can get there. It's building a startup is a hard process and a long journey, but that's my goal.
RJ, I'm going to dedicate that episode to you when we get Lizzo on.
Sweet. It's awesome. Share that album.
Now it's on my mind. That's
good. Now you've done it. I agree 100% with everything that you said. When we started this, like, there is no agenda with it. We're just meeting the people that are interesting to us and talking to them. That's it.
Yeah.
It's no simple road. That's really what it is.
Yeah.
But in doing it, I realized that this is what I'm supposed to do, and what I want to do. And so there's nowhere else. Like, we don't fit anywhere else. Where the hell would we go? What I mean? Osiris is the place.
And is there a go?
No, there isn't. Yeah. Just saying, like, it just makes sense. And like,
I feel like we're intertwined, kind of like the Caduceus.
I'm proud to be a part of it, and to know that, like, I don't know, that in some way we have a hand in helping build something that can, like, outlive us.
Something like we were talking about, something to me about what you've done with Osiris and what we're doing, and our whole community, is the trust and the honesty that goes with it.
Yeah.
For Osiris to be a trusted name.
Yeah.
In the music business, and for No Simple Road and stuff. It's like the thing going backstage, and there's a reason we're doing this and getting invited to the table, because one of the most flattering moments that's happened so far in this is when we went to Skull and Roses and we met Dennis McNally.
Mm-hmm.
There's this guy who is entrenched in this whole community. He was there at the beginning within a few minutes of meeting him and us doing our first interview, we did it. We did it when we said we were. We wrapped up. We were respectful of everything. And he immediately looked at us as just like carte blanche. You guys do whatever you want. You can go wherever.
That's awesome.
He
Yeah,
said-
yeah.
I trust you. You're not going to bother musicians. You're not going to get in the way. And I think that's what that's obviously what we are all
Dude,
about.
can I have your autograph?
He didn't understand what we were doing, and I don't think we did either. But we knew we wanted to create an experience of the event, not
Right.
just get behind stage to talk to Melvin Seals, you know.
Yeah,
and
be able to say we did that.
So he didn't know us like that, and he certainly didn't listen to our podcast. So him welcoming us in, I think within the first few minutes that we all met, we all fell in love with each other.
Yeah.
Like we loved Dennis loved us, we loved his sweet little wife.
Friends, yeah.
Yeah, we just
Like
his wife is so
Yeah.
he was so stoked when we wanted to interview Dennis. He's kind of like, no, you don't want to talk to me. And she's like, yes, thank you. Please talk to Dennis. Sit him down, ask
That's
him
awesome.
questions. The man wants to do it.
Well, he
He's
said
just-
at the end of Skull and Roses, like it was the last day, and we were kind of backstage, and he pulled me aside and he goes, I want you to know something. In 30 plus years of doing this thing, you are the first media that's kept their word with me.
Wow.
I was
What's
like,
that?
holy
That's-
shit.
Yeah.
well, and you told me that, and I was like, we're media.
Yeah.
they were just like, oh, that's right. Oh,
yeah.
professionals. We do this all the time. Thank you.
That's incredible, though. Wow.
It was a really cool moment. And that's I feel that same way about being part of this thing. I really, really do. I'm not just saying that because we're fucking
Yeah. I
I
appreciate
know, we
that.
get to tell each other that
Yeah.
because we don't really get to see each other and like
No.
this is awesome. But
Yeah.
you helped to shape our life since we've moved up here, and
It's a huge
in
deal.
a beautiful way, which none of us would have ever thought. And I am grateful for you and Osiris and Jonathan too, because he's a huge part. Like he's like the link,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
and he's doing own awesome, really dope stuff. So yeah, man. Thanks.
Thank you.
Like I love that we met our family on the East Coast.
I know.
really
And
do.
we were gonna. It was
This
gonna
was gonna be
happen.
the
It
year-
was gonna happen. It was gonna happen.
It was gonna happen.
This
No,
was
it
the year
wasn't.
for a lot of things, but yeah.
Well,
It's just
the
fun.
October thing last year, which was definitely going to happen, and then it just couldn't because Circles didn't.
Oh.
You know, it just
Oh,
that was really like I was
That's a
ready.
cool day. Like, what did you like? Were you a Neil Casal fan? Or
Yeah. I mean, I had talked to him a bunch about a project he wanted to do about like a podcast idea he had about musicians who were also photographers, and he was like, you know, I could talk to like Nikki Sixx from Motley Crue, who is apparently a big photographer, and you know he rattled off like 5 or 6 people, and you know Kevin connected us, and I talked to him on the phone a few times, and it was like July, August of last year, you know, and he was like, yeah, I should. And I was like, just do a couple of conversations, do 1 or 2 pilot interviews. Let's just see what they sound like. And then we can like, you know, do whatever from there. And that was, you know, he was like, yeah, next time, you know, when I go back out on tour in August and September, like I'll do that. It'll be great. And, you know, like, you know, I didn't know him, you know, I'm sure you guys feel the same way. Like I didn't know him like a lot of people knew him, but that was hard. I was in LA with Tom at the time that day that I found out that he died. And man, I was like, it kind of fucked me up for a while.
Yeah, you and
know,
I had talked
RJ,
about
I was
it.
in
Yeah.
LA too, and it fucked me up. Aaron texted me. I was in LA with
Yeah, I
him.
remember him telling me that. Yeah.
It was just weird. I was
Yeah.
like, but nuh-uh, like what?
Yeah.
Like it just didn't make sense.
It didn't make sense. None of it made any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
2 days after playing one of the biggest stages in
yeah,
music.
exactly.
Wow.
He hit his home run, dude.
Well, and then, you know, to find out that like, you know, he had been like thinking about that for a long time, and, you know, everyone goes through different things in their lives, of course, but man, it's intense. And
Gnarly.
now Circles Around the Sun is, you know, like
Killing it.
they're killing it. I got to talk to Adam a couple weeks ago in DC before this all went down, and it was interesting to hear him talk about the evolution of that band since that happened. You know, I know you guys have talked to him.
Well, not
It's
and
Not
though
since-
we have
well,
not.
we talked to him at the show here.
We didn't
Outside
interview. Yeah,
a little bit.
yeah, we'll catch up with him again because he's
Yeah.
got some good perspective on what happened, you know, since. But anyway, I don't want
Yeah,
to end.
but
I don't
we
want to
will-
end on a sad note.
No,
No,
we
that's-
will end up this year. Something is going to happen.
Something's gonna happen.
I feel like
I just need to sit on the porch. Like it's
Oh, RJ, it's so
And
it's
Anytime.
an
close.
inevitability. It's gonna
sun is
happen.
shining, the birds are chirping. No,
Yeah.
you know what, man? I just, in my heart of hearts, pray.
In my heart.
Oh, Lord. No.
That's
There's got to be shows this year. That's all. That's it. That's as far as I'm going to go. It just has to be
I
shows.
hope you're right.
He just
Yeah.
wants you to tell
That's it.
you
No,
that.
just tell me there's going to be shows,
Well, that's
RJ.
what I keep saying. It's like
I will not do that.
there's gonna at least we're gonna be able. I'm hoping it's same thing. I'm hoping we're gonna at least be able to go to the smaller venues and start
Nope,
seeing
you're gonna
live
stand
music.
6 feet from nobody.
RJ,
Seeing
I
big
appreciate
festivals is-
you spending time, quiet time that you rarely get
Yeah.
to spend.
It's
with
been awesome.
Thank you.
So hang on. I'm going to show you
Fantastic.
the porch. Hang on a second.
Okay. All right.
No what? So right now they're all in the other room eating and stuff. You tell them like you need to give dad's doing professional business.
Yeah. My wife put them to bed probably about a half hour ago. So it's
Oh, okay.
really- I'm gonna walk out to an actually quiet evening.
Oh, okay. That's right. It's a little
Yeah.
after eight.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
There's Darwin.
Darwin. Hey, Darwin.
All right.
He's like, what's
Like what are you doing?
going on here? Yeah. Oh, nice.
It's got to
He's
adjust to
gonna-
the
uh-oh.
glare out there.
I see the
There's all kinds.
nice. That's good. That's a well-worn table.
Okay, yeah. There's some green.
Nice. Yeah. We got it.
It's funny too, right up there at the top of the ivy, Melanie started building a bamboo fence
yeah.
because there's a retirement home that's been being built for years behind us.
Okay.
Fully open. So Mel's
They're
a lot of times
nosy
is out there doing
neighbors.
yoga and dancing.
Uh-huh.
So she's like freaking peeping toms over there, like old men, like coming
Literally.
and staring over. They like stare like,
That's
hey,
it.
what are you
And
doing?
I know his name. His name is Gerald, and his wife's name is
That's-
Heidi. And
That's awesome.
he freaking peeps on me because he's like, I'm the only one that comes out here.
Well, you're attracting peeps, so that's cool.
Yeah.
I mean,
Wow.
So we're building a wall.
Yeah.
I
gotta
know.
build a wall.
And we're making Gerald pay for it.
It's the best. The best solution for a lot of problems.
I love you, man. Thanks,
Aw.
RJ.
Good to talk to you guys. Thank you for having me on. It was an honor.
Yeah,
Thank you,
us
guys.
too, man.
Yeah.
This is great being able to see each other's faces.
I know.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. Nice to see you
So
guys.
good to see your face.
All
Yeah,
right.
it's nice to
And
see you
Go
guys.
enjoy time with your wife
All right.
or
Peace
whatever.
out.
All right, bye.
Bye, guys.
Cute. Oh, look at these two.